Good morning, dear Thầy, dear Sangha. Can you hear me well? Today is Sunday, June the 14th, the year 2015, and we are in the big meditation hall at the Blue Cliff Monastery, and we are very glad to have a session of question and answer for you today. And let me present to you the panel here. We first have Sister Hai Eng on the far right, Sister Ocean. She's from Toronto, Hamilton, Canada. And I think she's the youngest sister in the panel. And on her left is Sister Wang Yim, Sister Avatamsaka, as in the Avatamsaka Sutra. She's a big elder sister, very wonderful, many talents. She can write poetry, sing song, give a wonderful Dharma talk too. And on my left is Brother Pháp Mang. He's a wonderful brother. A lot of things you don't know. He belongs to the Mensa Club. Very talented technology. He's our IT monk. We take care of the website and the internet facility. And my name is Brother Pháp Khong. That means Dharma emptiness. And I think I'm here 8 years now at Blue Cliff Monastery. I used to be in Plum for 3 years, and then I came to Vermont for 2 years, and I've been since the beginning of Blue Cliff Monastery. And I see being progressing and growing very wonderful. We have many people coming every weekend now. So I think we don't have any children teenage today. Huh? Oh, they are regular fixture. Actually, yeah, if the children have some questions, we can ask a few questions first, and then if they want, they would like to play outside, or they can just stay with the adult if they would like to. And we have a wireless microphone, so if you would like to ask some question, just raise your hand. Oh, we have also the microphone right there on the stand. Chắc nếu có thể mình đem cái microphone nó dễ hơn cho người ngại họ lợi hỏi câu hỏi. So if the children don't have any question, if you would like to ask a question, you can just come to the microphone and ask us a question. Or you can raise your hand, I can bring the microphone to you. So we are 4 in the panel. Maybe we can take 6 questions first. So just ask one question after the other, and we try our best to answer the question to you to the best of our ability. And the question doesn't have to be very long to be a good question. And also, a question can be very beneficial for other people who might formulate the same question and didn't get a chance to ask. And we ask, if possible, the question be concrete in your practice, in your daily life, and not in a theoretical question. Because we don't read too much about theory.
Good morning. My name is Jose. Thank you very much for the walking meditation. I enjoy it very much. My question is about the mosquitoes. I had the mosquitoes in front of me, just an inch from my eyes. I was struggling between accepting them and rejecting them. What is your advice? Yes, it's about the mosquito. When I was in the walking meditation, I had the mosquitoes in front of me, sometimes on my face. And I was struggling between accepting them, being part of the nature, and rejecting them, trying to push them away. What is your advice?
Dear respected teacher, dear monastics community, my question is, how do I cultivate faith, trust, and stability in the path that I choose, whatever path that may be? Thank you.
Dear Thai, dear Sangha, my question is, how can we practice mindfulness in environments that are saturated in stimulus that has been scientifically designed to manipulate us unconsciously without our awareness of it happening at all?
Dear teachers, I was just curious what advice you may have regarding when you're in a crossroads in your life and it doesn't seem like should or right and wrong should be a part of the decision. How would you go about making a large decision in direction? Not that it's definitive whether you go one way or the other, but I don't know. That's as best that I can do. Thanks.
Dear Thai, dear respected teachers, what is the role of questioning and debate in our practice? What is the role of questioning and debate in our practice?
was just wondering how you can let go of the suffering and trauma of others when you're constantly surrounded by it, like in a work situation or just in your daily life, how you can separate that from yourself.
So, dear Thầy, dear Sangha, I think we have 6 questions here. How to deal with mosquito and gnat, or flies, things that bother you. How to cultivate faith and trust and stability in whatever path you chose. And I think it relates a little bit to the question number 4 too, how to make big decisions at a crossroad of our life. And how to practice mindfulness in environment that are designed to super stimulate us. And number 5 is what the role of questioning and debate in our practice. And number 6 is how to let go of a separate oneself from suffering that is constantly surrounding you.
Dear respected Thai, our teacher, dear beloved community, as the youngest I get to go first. I would like to see if I can just shed a bit on questions 2 and 4 from my experience. Mostly number 4, but it might touch on number 2 about how to make large decisions without getting into shoulds and shouldn'ts. I often see shoulds and shouldn'ts coming up in my mind. And one very simple thing is just to recognize them. Or say, oh, that's a should. Or, I think that there's a shouldn't inside, and just to see it for what it is instead of trying to push it away or just follow it. And I find that when I've just seen it as like, oh, there's a strong should voice in my head. And it doesn't mean I don't do it, but I just see if I listen, is there anything else? Kind of guiding me or inspiring me. And it takes some time. I'm still learning how to recognize the shoulds and shouldn'ts inside, because especially when they're cultivated by our communities, our families, generations of culture, they're very, very hard to suss out. So I also just practice to take time to learn how to recognize them. That's already a big practice. And once they're recognized, then it's easier to sort of hear clearly what is the should and shouldn't in the head for me than if I don't even know that they're there, or I think that they're something else. And is just really listening And the more space I cultivate and the less pressure I put on myself to make a decision, then the easier it is to hear what the different voices are inside, or the different pressures and directions. And when it's calmer, then it's kind of easier to find something that's stable and joyful. That might even be the same decision as the should would be, but if I only listen to the should, then I haven't found my own reason for doing it, or my own inspiration and motivation, and then it's very, I can feel very resentful if I just follow the shoulds in my head, even though I'm the one making the choice. Just to give an example from my own life, I had cancer a number of years ago, and I had to decide about my treatment. And I was very anti-Western medicine, and so I didn't want to do anything with the doctors, and I had bad relationships with my doctors, and I was doing a lot of holistic alternative things, and at one point I did go find a new doctor, and the tumor was growing, and I had to decide if I was going to have surgery or not, have chemotherapy or not. Some people would just do it because they feel confident in that, but I didn't feel confident. So I was really lucky. I was able to take a few weeks at a retreat, actually. And I just walked a lot. I listened to myself a lot, and I sang and walked in nature. And at one point it just became very clear that actually I was going to do the surgery, and the drastic surgery, which I was not expecting myself to do. The doctors wanted me to do it. It could be a should, but I didn't want to do it because of the should. But when I took time to listen and to really calm down, then a sort of a joyful place, a joyful willingness arose, and a clarity arose, and I don't know how to explain it more clearly than that. And then a month later, when I had to decide the chemo, I also took a few weeks, so I didn't give myself the time pressure. I really pushed my doctor and said, I cannot decide today. Nope, you're not getting an answer. I have to wait till the next appointment because I'm not ready to decide. And that actually, what I decided to not do any of the radiation chemo. And I took myself through thinking, well, if I do it and the cancer comes back, how might I feel? If I do it and the cancer doesn't come back, how might I feel? If I don't do it and the cancer might come back, how might I feel? If I don't do the treatment and the cancer doesn't come back, how might I feel? And I just took time to try to see where I could find the most integrity in myself, which just involves a lot of quieting. I didn't do a lot of formal sitting, but I was doing a lot of quiet walking, reading things that were inspirational, so that I was sort of cultivating my joy, so that there was something strong enough within me to be able to listen within. So that's kind of a drastic example, but I see that kind of model is like taking the time to really look at the different options, and so it gave me a deep faith in my choices, even though it was quite scary, because we only make the decisions that we can based upon where we are right now, based upon what we know right now. We can't know what we're going to know in the future. And so I really take refuge in that of, okay, am I doing the best I can right now? And even if right now I'm tired and crabby and making poor decisions, that's the best I can do right now, because I'm tired and crabby and I don't have enough support. And so my decisions are kind of poor. And when I can, I will make better decisions. So I think early on in reading Thay's teachings, it really, and starting to practice, that was something that I find the 5 mindfulness trainings really helpful for. They don't necessarily answer like, do this, do that, but they give me guidelines to reflect upon, to find a sense of integrity. But if there's rushing, and if I don't have space within myself, then it's very difficult to find a sense of integrity and clarity. So that's what I can share from my experience and my practice of both how to have faith, trust, and stability in one chooses, is also recognizing sometimes I make a choice, and later on I go, wow, I will not make that choice again. But I couldn't have known that if I didn't make the choice before. And so cultivating a larger sense of acceptance is really important for faith, I find. And I hope that my siblings can maybe share more on these topics. But that's what I've seen from my practice.
Dear respected teacher, dear beloved community, I am the next in line by ordination, so it's my turn to share. And I'm very grateful for the sharing of Sister Ocean on making choices, and I think it underlines a lot of the basic practice for a lot of the questions of stopping and looking deeply to know what to do. That's a core element of our practice. If we don't have time to stop, then we don't have time to look. And if we don't have time to look, we won't see. We won't see clearly. We won't know what to do. I think it's very important. But to pick one in particular, I will try the last question, number 6. I appreciate this question a lot. And I want to apply that wisdom to that question too, that we want to know what to do with the suffering. And stopping and looking deeply are very important elements of understanding suffering in that area. I would say that one of the things we start to see when we stop long enough and we can look deeply and is that we start to feel more connected. We might feel more connected to the people around us, or even to ourselves, or the animals that live in our backyard, or the plants and trees that grow up around us. So I would say that that's once we start to go in that direction, we get a kind of insight that we're of interbeing. We call it interbeing in this tradition, that we can't be by ourselves alone, that everything depends on us and we depend on everything else. So whether it's the water that we drank this morning, it comes from the stream or from the sky, or the food that we eat, there's a deep connection there, and the same is true for for people. We really depend on each other for everything that we do and everything that either makes us suffer or makes us happy. You can imagine if you were the only one in the Dharma hall right now, then the Dharma talk, there would be no Dharma talk. So we need we really depend on each other in very deep ways to for our happiness. A lot of our happiness is rooted in feeling loved and accepted by others. And a lot of our suffering comes from when we don't feel that. And so I guess the first thing I would say about that question is that the practice of seeing interconnection allows us to see that the suffering of the other person is our own suffering, and the happiness of the other person is also our own happiness. So it's like we're collective, we collectively depend on each other. So just in the same way that you wouldn't want to separate yourself from your own suffering, it's not really possible to separate yourself from the suffering of others either. And I think what we are looking for in that one, like going back to the basic practice of stopping and breathing and looking deeply, is a kind of insight that can lead us from a place of our relationship to the suffering, so that we might feel fear or anxiety or anger in relationship to suffering. But with some insight, then we can transform that fear and anxiety into compassion. So when we can approach suffering, whether it's in us or the other person, with compassion, if we get some understanding of the roots of it and the nature of it, then that kind of compassion can arise. So that will change the relationship. And I think part of that question is also asking about what to do in the face of difficulty. Like I think the word trauma was mentioned. So this could be a very painful or dangerous kind of situation. And so getting the insight about what we need to do, sometimes we don't recognize that we need to protect ourselves, and by protecting ourselves we also protect the other person. So knowing exactly what to do, it falls also into those other categories of how to make a decision. But I just wanted to share that until we have some insight about it, until we have some understanding of our relationship to the person and the suffering, it won't be clear to us what we need to do to protect ourselves, or what's the most skillful way to protect ourselves and the other person. Maybe I could ask my sister to invite one sound of the bell, and now we can listen to that and breathe and see if we get any more insight about that question. Thank you. That's very helpful. I know I'm sharing a little bit longer, but I think that's a very deep question. It's a question that so many people face because there's a lot of violence in our society, and there's also a lot of depression and despair too, which can be a fuel for that kind of violence. I wanted to share just briefly, I think it's nice to share a little bit on personal experience too, my own experience. And it was a difficult situation that I was in when I was in Hawaii, and I was there with my mom. My mom is here living at the monastery, but at that time, my mom was not feeling well, and she was in the hospital. So there was a lot of suffering there, and being there and caring for her, that was very challenging because it also affected me. There's a close relationship, a close bond. And one thing that helped me tremendously in that time to get support and to get some insight about what to do to generate my own happiness and peace so that I could offer that to her. She was not feeling well. She was having very strong depression at that time, is that I took refuge in the Sangha. There was some Sangha practitioners in Hawaii, and so I would go regularly and practice with them, and that helped me regenerate my own peace and stability and see, just to have some happiness and to see that I wasn't totally alone or trapped in that situation. And then what I did when I was visiting my mom, I would bring 2 little finger puppets that I had, and I would have them talk back and forth to each other, and that always made my mom laugh. So even though she was pretty depressed, she was still able to laugh. So somehow I got the insight about what to do in a natural way. And I think the Sangha probably helped me to do that. Dave Keneally, who used to live here, he's the one who gave me those finger puppets before I left to go on that trip to Hawaii. So then I kept those. And one is a giraffe and one is a shark. And the shark was very mean. He would say, "Oh, I'm in a bad mood." Shame the shark. And the other one is Geraldine the giraffe, and she would say, "Oh, Shane, it's okay. Just relax. You can smile and breathe." So I would do that with my mom. She would usually laugh. So it really depends on the situation, you know. Sometimes we have to separate ourselves even from the one that we love in order to protect that person and to protect ourselves. So there's no easy answer. I remember at an earlier time when my mom was also having some difficulty, and I lived in Germany and I was very far away. It wasn't really possible for me to fly over there. I was still a novice. I was very inexperienced in the practice and taking refuge in trying to learn how to practice there. And so what we did is I let the Sangha know about my mom's difficulty, and then we had a small ceremony. Sister Jewel, she helped Sister Jewel was living there at that time, and she helped organize that ceremony of sending energy. And then we sang a lot of songs that my mom liked, and I think I made some banana bread that she also liked. And then it helped to generate a positive feeling in me. So I felt okay, stable. I could connect to her. I felt I could accept where she was and look with those eyes of compassion. And so then when I called her later that evening, we had a very nice conversation naturally. And I don't know what I said, but maybe it had some benefit. I think that was the time when she started to transition into a healing. So, yeah, I also, at that time, was following the advice of our teacher, Tai, because I went to ask him this question: what should I do? Should I go home? I want to go back and be with my mom. Should I go home? And he kind of smiled and he said, well, maybe you can help more by being a stable, getting insight and being a stable and solid element in the Sangha. And that was true at that time. That's what I did. Okay, thanks for listening to me.
So, dear Thầy, dear Sangha, I'd like to try to answer to question number 1. How do we deal with mosquito gnats? Should we accepting or rejecting them? I think first of all I'd like to share that I have tried maybe 7, 8 times to let the mosquito extract blood from my hand, because I like to observe them. Because sometimes in the legs you don't see very well. In the area when they have a lot of mosquito, I just let them land on my hand and I observe them how they draw the blood. And I think that answers a little bit to the question number 6 about the background of suffering too. Actually, we use the background of suffering as to develop compassion and acceptance of situation. Just like an artist prime the canvas first, like whether it's a beige or white prime on a canvas before you apply the paint of different color to reflect the background. And I can give you 2 circumstances that bring me to the fact that it's easy for me to let the mosquito extract blood from my body. When I was a lot younger, I was skinnier at the time, and we have a blood bank, and I volunteer to go and give blood. And I'm a little bit afraid of needle. And I remember I went and I was a little bit nervous about it, and there was a young trainee nurse who wasn't really sure how to plunge a needle in my arm. And I was nervous and make her nervous. So she was trying to find the artery. You know, she do what she was supposed to do, put the rubber band and everything, you know. But somehow I was so nervous that I didn't pump any blood coming out the vein. So she plunged many times, and she didn't hit right on the vein, and it was very painful. And after a while, my face turned all green. I was about to faint. So she was asking for help, and a senior nurse said, okay, let him go, let him rest, because you cannot find the vein to thing. So I escaped from that, and I look at the circumstances. I don't know, for some reason I was so nervous about it, and of course it's very painful, you know, when every time she plunged the needle into, and she couldn't find my vein. So now I'm thinking about that. I'm not sure, you probably read National Geographic. I read a couple articles about mosquito. They evolved billions of years with warm blood creature like us. So they developed just a wonderful proboscis, I think that's what we call it, is the needle. They can be soft and hard as they need to, and they can really insert the most gentle way. So for me, to give blood to a mosquito is just a pleasure, comparing what the nurse was plunging the needle into my arm. And I can wonder how wonderful they do it, you know. Because it was designed to inflame us a little bit, and the itching you do is to, it's like a anesthetize kind of thing, like when you don't feel the pain. And also it prevents the blood from coagulating when they draw the blood from your body. And you know, scientifically we know there are only a few bacteria that harm us, like malaria, dengue fever, and a few West Nile or something. But in this area we don't have it. So, and I was in Vietnam. I let them draw my blood in the city. It's just no problem, you know. So that is, to me, it's wonderful to be able to practice one-on-one with a mosquito. Of course, it's a female mosquito usually that draw blood because they are pregnant, so they to feed their young. So they have a family to feed, you know. And the other one, I remember I was in Upper Hamlet, and there was a couple bees that come into the library. And there was another brother, which I won't name it, they got very funny. He saw there was a bee landing on my arm, and he said, I'm going to help you to catch it. So he used like a glass, like a glass we drink tea, and he trapped the bees against my arm. But the problem, he didn't use a paper or something underneath. So of course the bee panicked and they bite me. And it was painful, of course. So I've been beaten a couple times before, and I learned the suffering as a background. So when I see a small creature like a gnat or a mosquito, I don't think the problem, you know. Saturday I was leading a walk to the forest, and I don't think it bothered me at all, because I think once you suffer, you have some situation when it hurt you. Comparing the little thing doesn't hurt at all. So to me, the background helped a lot. When you mentioned about the background of suffering, it helped, it vaccinates you. Like when we grow up in the war of Vietnam, we went through a lot of things. We see a lot of killing and things like that. I was a refugee on a boat and things. So when you come here in this country, the little thing is not that much different. I mean, you can survive. So to me, this is the thing I want to share, because we can inform about it, we can learn more. I think the more you understand the creature, the more you accept them, you can live them peacefully. And usually it's just like a bother. I don't even bother to do something like that, because they know not to get into your eyes and things like that. And I think the other question have to do with how you practice mindfulness in difficult environment that super stimulate you. I think when we get the chance to practice in the monastery here, we can develop a lot of good habit energy. And to me, is once you're grounded in the daily practice of mindful step and mindful breath, and you know what is inside of you, and how you react to outside situation. I remember there was one retreat, and she stayed at Blue Cliff for 2 weeks, I think. And she says she suffered a lot outside in society, so she's kind of super sensitive to stimuli. And she shared that she liked to practice at the monastery when outside of the day mindfulness or big retreat. She feel like Thursday and Sunday, there are too many people coming and too many stimuli for her, and she's not used to that. So I think you have to know what's the background of your suffering and so on, and how you are super sensitive to different stimuli. I've been going out a couple of times to New York City to buy grocery and so on. And we just know that when we go out, we submit ourselves to certain super stimulation, especially in a noisy environment or thing like that. Like there's some restaurant, it's a decent vegetarian restaurant, but too many people talk at the same time. It becomes very noisy for the ears, kind of thing. But I think between the front of the lens and the back of the lens, like I use the image of the camera, there is a transformation of the image. And this is something, the more you practice, the more you have that filtering system. So whatever comes through the eyes at the front of the lens, by the time they get to the bottom of the lens, which is the iris or whatever you call it in the eyes, you already have a transformation. So you won't be affected as much. The same thing, we have a lot of permanent residents here. We receive guests at Thursday and Sunday, and sometimes we have a large retreat. And we don't get affected too much because we know how to transform our lenses, and not be affected. So, and the second thing is when you go out, I think it's good to have a second body. That's why we always come out with a second body, third body, fourth body. So you have a support in the practice. People remind you not to get lost in your own thoughts and your own super stimulation. Thank you.
So, respected Thai, dear brother, sister, and dear friends, I would like to share each question a little bit. Is my practice, my experience, and please try to understand my English. For me, about in the Buddhist practice, about acceptance or rejecting. We don't say accept or reject, but we practice compassion to the living being who live with us, around us. We respect their life like we respect our life. And we try to live harmony with the living being around us. We try to live peacefully with them. But it's not mean we accept if some kind of animal, they very dangerous animal. So we can just by the way we live in our environment, how we protect our life of the living being, of the human beings. So we can. This is also the practice of mindfulness. We know how to live, to protect ourselves from the environments. Like the question number 3, for me, is how we live in moderation is we can protect us from the environment. And the practice of mindfulness is remind us what happened in the here and now, in our body and our mind. So the practice is bring you peace and happiness. So this kind of the practice, the path of the way of the practice is the path, and this path is bring you peace and happiness, and this is it tell you that you can trust. This path is bring you peace and happiness, so we can continue cultivate the practice every day. So the more we cultivate the practice, then our faith will be grow and stronger. If we see this way, it brings us peace and happiness, and bring us the stability and transformation, the suffering, the happy energy. So we think this path is the right path. The path brings us peace and happiness, so we can continue and cultivate every day. And so I think that's the suffering in ourselves when we learn from the Buddhist teaching. We can see that we are made of not, the cell is made of non-cell elements. So we know that we are from our parents, from our ancestors. So this suffering is not the separate cell suffering. If we suffer, mean our parents suffer too, and our ancestors also suffer. So when we see that, if we suffer, and sometimes we carry the suffering from our parents, from our ancestors, and we didn't know that, and we don't know why we get angry very easily, or we have the behavior, the action is not very kind, or the way we speak, the way we act, not very kind, because it's not only from ourselves, but maybe we are carrying some from our ancestors. So when we look at that, we practice the mindfulness practice can help us to look deeply into the suffering and into the suffering in ourselves. And we know that, oh, this is, we carry from our parents, you know. For example, my mother, she get angry very quick. So one day I find myself, I have the same kind anger as my mother. And I get angry very quick. And after that I can see, because my mother have angry with me in the past when I was a child. And now sometimes I saw myself react as the same as my mother. So I know that this is, I carry the suffering, the continuation from my mother. It's not only myself. So when I saw that, I practiced to transform the anger in me by when it arrived, and I saw that, and I can see that, oh, mothers, moms, you are here. So when I see that, I said, now we are together, we transform this kind of habit energy. And then, you know, every day, every time when it's come up, and we can recognize and look deeply, and we stop the way my mother have done in the past with her children. And so this is the ways that we have to let go the self from the suffering. And even when we carry some suffering, we don't think this is only our suffering. Even now we live in the Sangha, in the community. When something happens in the community, I don't think this is happened for my personal individual, but for the whole Sangha. So I think that, oh, if something happened to myself, also happened to the Sangha. And if I do something successful, bring happiness to the people, I think this is not my personal, my individual, but this is the Sangha doing. the whole Sangha, and my teacher, and my brother and my sister. So this is the practice of let go the self in us, and we have to. We cannot say that we can let go once, but gradually every day we can see the self in you smaller and smaller. For me, the question and answer, yesterday, when my sister talked to me about question and answer today, and I share with them, I laughing, I said that on the question, on the answer from the question, I forgot everything. But one lay friend, she said that, oh, she remember. And I smiling because I think that's, I forgot the words, but maybe the sharing, the answer of the question is come to my practice. It's not the intellectual words. It's the sharing from the question answer is from the sharing from our experience. And so this experience is bring us something we remember, and it become into our mind and our practice. And for me, when we come to the question answer, when we listen to the answer and question, we don't think this question, this answer is right or wrong. We not criticize or judge, but we just think this answer is the sharing from the heart of the brother and sister, from the people, the sharing from their experience, and we can learn from the experience. We not come to the question and answer only to learn the intellectual, like the theory, because we can find that a lot in internet. But the experience, the practice, the experience of the practice, it only comes from our heart and our human, our mind. But the intellectual we can find a lot in the book or in the internet. So this one question I would like to share with you. Thank you.
So, dear Thầy, dear friend, I'm mindful of the time. Also, I think there's a little bit of question number 5 we haven't really addressed enough. I think the question is, Thầy, of course, give us a challenge always, that question, are you sure? Are you sure? Is that what our perception, our interpretation of certain events or things? It's always good to look at again. And I think to me, our teacher is constant learner. Even though he's old age, advanced age, but he keep reading and learning new things all the time, and try to explain the Dharma in a new way of presenting to the society. I think myself, I'm interested in neuropsychology a lot. Like I say, when I experiment of letting a mosquito bite me, of course I'm reading a little bit more, just curious about how mosquitoes do things. And I find article and things like that help me to understand the situation deeper. So it's always good to question and learn new things. And having to do debate, I think we have a second body system, and it helps a lot. We change roommate, so we have new roommate, and that person can question you what you do in your room, and we change roommate, and we have rotation work, and we have a teammate that keep changing too. So it's always having a little bit discussion about, say, if you have 2 persons in the kitchen, you want to cook something, it's easier. If you have 4 persons in the kitchen, you have to sit and talk about how you want to cook, what you want to cook, and things like that. And the same thing when we go out, like we went to a Canadian tour. There was 3 months, 3 nuns, 6 of us traveled together. So we always have to try to learn from each other and discuss with each other what you want to do, what your preference, how you do things. So I think to me, having companion or practice keep remind you. So I think you're surrounding with good friends, good practitioner, co-practitioner. It helps you to do that debating and that learning experience from each other. So dear Thầy, dear Sangha, thank you very much. Maybe Pháp Mãn want to share something.
Dear Thai, dear Sangha, I know we have short time, I'll be brief, but I might feel uncomfortable, I would feel some regret if I went out and I had some desire to share about number 2, the question about faith, trust, stability in the path that you choose. And underneath that question, I got a sense of feeling that sometimes we want to be comfortable all the time. We have difficulty sometimes crossing our comfort zone. People use that expression because I get the sense that we know in many ways what the path is, the good path for us, like a path of where we cultivate mindfulness, we cultivate our relationships with people on a daily basis. We make choices that sometimes are not comfortable for us. Like, for example, for me, I could try to avoid coming up for the question and answer because it's a little uncomfortable to sit in front of a lot of people if you feel shy. But it's very good for me. I have confidence that that practice of sharing my experience is not only good for me, but for the Sangha too. So the image that was coming to me is like jumping into a cold, it's a very hot day, and there's a very cold lake, and you know it's very cold because you put in your toe, but you know it will be very refreshing. So there's a part that wants to jump in to the lake and enjoy that. Then there's another part that doesn't want to experience that first cold part. So I think that there's often a point where we have to make a choice and make a kind of a commitment to a path, a practice. And the trust and the stability in that grows over time. But the initial hurdle is what we have to cross. And then once we get into the water and we feel how nice and refreshing that is, then it's easy to enjoy that and we continue. But that doesn't mean we're going to have to face other choices where we might have to go outside of our comfort zone. So that, I think anytime you see something is very good, but you hesitate and you're feeling uncomfortable, sometimes it's worth it to go in there. So I just wanted to add that as a kind of encouragement to us to be courageous in our path of practice. Thank you very much.
So if we can listen to the 3 sound of bells, we can end the question and answer. Thank you very much for your patience.